Well, good day. Love and blessings to each and every one of you. Isn't it a beautiful day outside? Yeah, it's gorgeous. And it's a gorgeous day in here because you're all here. And because you're here, we know that we are anchoring a unified field of awareness, one life, one power, one presence, where the power of the infinite, that the I am is, that God is, that living light, that joy is truth, that dynamic grace, that vitalizing wholeness of heart, that it finds a way to fulfill its own dynamic substantive presence through each and every one of us and through this community as a whole. So that's what we're on purpose for. And the one thing I want to ask is if you agree with that. Say yes. Yes. I come from a call and response community. So thank you so much because, then I'll know you're here. So I'm grateful once again to bring to you the topic this morning, Stairway to Heaven. And as with every and anything that I do, especially something this profound, which I do take seriously, and that is the honor and the pleasure of making the commitment to come and be a part of this process, to give the talk this morning. As with everything, I turn within and I am still, and Spirit imparts to me what it would like by divine design to be fulfilled. I'm also very much always in active prayer that the highest and the best, the most profound thing, the most healing thing, fulfills itself for each one who is in attendance. That's part of the process of what I do. I actually thought the talk had another, I thought I had another title, and then I got this one. And so then the thing I want to say is, no, it has nothing to do with the song. We all could like the song, Stairway to Heaven, right? So we're about bringing forward that divine idea of real life and knowing that each and every one of you here is here by right of consciousness. And when I say that, I don't just mean in your seat, which is good, but I also mean on the planet at this time. I'm really clear that each of us took this incarnation in a very purposeful way. We said, yes, we know and trust that we live in an intentional universe, that it is always seeking to fulfill the highest, the best, the greatest, the most expanded magnificence, to glorify God in the highest way. And that as emissaries of that same light and that same truth, each of us made a commitment before we came here, before we ever showed up. And again, I don't mean at this center. I mean before you came physically into form, your soul said yes. Your soul took its own place and part as to what you are here to reveal and fulfill. It said yes. And a part of you, just like we saw the kids, said, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. So just remember that sometimes when you say, what am I doing here? I know. Sometimes we find ourselves in interesting and challenging circumstances. And the only thing that really means is it means that our soul says, you have an opportunity. Isn't this wonderful? There's an opportunity to see beyond human sight. There's an opportunity to see beyond human circumstance. It's an opportunity to see a greater truth and a bigger life and a deeper knowing. So I'm grateful always to be in a community that is in agreement with that. Now, we may have some questions about that, and we can talk about it. But those are the fundamentals that we're going forward with, knowing that you are here in the image and out of the likeness of the infinite. You are here on purpose from that infinite. Your soul knows why you're here. That's what I know. That's what I stand in. That's what I trust. That's what I constantly get to see as unfolding and revealing more of itself with every step we take, with every breath we take. Sometimes it seems like we got a little amnesia, or perhaps people say to me, they get a little sidetracked. But it's interesting, from the purview of having worked for so many years in community and honestly with my own spiritual practice and the whole big picture of it, I have the wonderful, wonderful, confident knowing that there is nothing that we cannot take ourselves out of the intention and the purpose for which we were born. We may have an opinion about that. Yeah, you may. And that again, I want to say that that's okay. It's not to judge it. It's to know that beautiful thing that it takes all of our experiences to fulfill a divine idea that we were born to fulfill. It takes all of our experiences. I mean, in a certain way, you could say the good, the bad, and the ugly. Just because sometimes we have a thought, a question, a judgment for ourselves, for life, for the universe, for the way things, quote, seem to happen. But if we can start reminding ourselves in a really wonderful, gentle way that we are not only on purpose, but the universe is very purposeful, very intentional. Part of why I chose the reading is that Ernest Holmes says we are on the verge. That's the only issue I have with that reading. He says we're on the verge of bringing forth a spiritual universe. You know, I'm going to tell you it's here and it's now, and it's been emerging. We are in the emergence right here, right now. And part of the way that we can all testify to this is for sure life is not how it used to be. That's for sure. Right? Right? And again, you look at that and you say, okay, so that means something magnificent and wonderful is seeking to fulfill itself beyond my preconceived thought, opinion, idea. And my part, and this is all, you know, when I say my or I mean that in the collective I for all of us. It means our part is always to say, the question can be, what is the good that is seeking to emerge out of this? With the guarantee that because that we are backed by a friendly universe, that there is only the one power and only the one life, that we are backed by a friendly universe. It is always seeking that emergent truth to come forward. And sometimes it's just a matter of, in the moment when we seem challenged, to be willing to sort of step aside from our human thought and belief, which is the challenge. I get it, believe me. Not like I'm not human. Anyway, just step over here, we say to ourselves, and say, you know what? So if this is what's appearing, I must go back to the truth that I know. I must be willing to stand in a truth that there's a bigger idea and a greater life. And honestly, the way you can work spiritual principle is, for example, is that it seems wherever it appears there's a lack of anything, for sure, and the guarantee is, what is seeking to emerge is something bigger, something greater, something that's even more life-affirming than could have ever happened before. I will say to you that I've seen that over and over and over and over and over. That principle has proved itself in my awareness so many times that now I can stand in that, as I have for a long time, but I give you that as a practice to allow that to be a way of life for yourself. That when things seem challenging, to instead of saying, what's wrong with this, or what's wrong with me, or the other question sometimes is kind of like a little on the victim-y side, why is this happening to me? Instead say, what is the meaning that I can bring to this? What is the greater good that's seeking to emerge? And that can be our life-transforming question with every step that we take. Yes? Yes. Thank you. We're good. Okay. One of the wonderful examples I have of this is that my beautiful daughter, who actually has red hair, I keep looking at this baby thinking, oh yeah, she had red hair like that. Anyway, a little aside there. That she, as with many of us, you know, had a question for many years about kind of like, I don't know, her question, this is all in my words, right? So kind of like, well, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? What are the gifts I am to fulfill? And she finally, after, you know, a few years of investigating this, came to the realization that what she could do and bring to the planet is to be a doctor of veterinary medicine. And in fact, she just told me the story that I didn't even know just the other day about something that she saw on TV, you know, one of those things about an animal and its suffering, which whenever she sees that, because she's empathic, she suffers. You know, some people are like that. And then she understood in that moment, again, it could look terrible and seem awful. But instead of being in the awfulness of it, I don't know about you, but every time those commercials come on, I'm like, turn it off, change it, can't say that. Because I don't want to move into vibrational agreement with the suffering, you know. And we always have a choice, knowing that we are co-creative beings in God, that where we put our attention, a true vibration of energy is flowing. So I know for myself, I need to be very mindful of where I'm putting my attention. So that was her opening, do you see? Instead of saying, this is awful, ain't it awful, it's terrible, it's never going to get any better, why does there have to be all this suffering? Instead, she said, what can I do? And what is my part? And how can I support a greater consciousness of living in a living, loving, lawful universe? What is the part I can play? So she started this journey to become a doctor of veterinary medicine. So she's still in the fairly early stages right now, but that's okay. She's still demonstrating in a really, really wonderful way. And this, just for you to know, was not like, it wasn't like, some people see things and think, well, that seems logical. In a certain way, that's kind of, I'm going to tell you, blowing off the universe, okay? Anyway, so I would advise against that. Because while it may have seemed logical, due to the myriad animals I had come through my house on a continuing basis, you know, over and over and over for her whole life, and I watched her really anchor in that, and as I said in the early service, really, I watched her glow. Like there was just one point, for some reason, stands out in my mind still. When she was, you know, she was the child who always asked for a cat. We had cats, anyway. Always wanted one. I'm like, wait till you're older, wait till you're older. Anyway, finally got her an animal. But I think at this point we had 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of whatever. But the look, see, this is the deal, is when you watch and when you hit it for yourself, you know it. But when I watched it with her, something in her, she's like, she just said, this is the way it's supposed to be. It was really wonderful to see that, especially with your children, those of you who have children. It's wonderful to see that for ourselves. So she started on the journey, and again, it wasn't easy, it wasn't comfortable, it was not convenient for her. She's not good, she hasn't, up until now, been good at science or math. It was not her strong suit. So she knew that it was going to be a thing for her. So she started taking summer school at the community college that offers a wonderful program to move into a doctor of veterinary medicine. But it's not like it's close to the house. You know, the one close to the house doesn't do that. That's like a mile away. No. This one's 40 miles. It's in the valley. This is the one who didn't really like to drive. She sure didn't want to get on the freeway. So, and you know, I'm just telling you because this is how it is for all of us. She knows I'm using her as an example, so I'm not breaking confidentiality. But all of these things that, as a parent, I had watched were challenges for her. Suddenly, that spark, she came alive, I'm telling you. And suddenly, everything aligned in her where she could now step up. She could now take that first step. She was on that stairway to heaven, knowing heaven is the nature of ever-expanding good in our souls. That heavenly estate of divinity within us is always present, is always seeking for us to be awake to it, and then to impart that, to impute that vibration wherever we go in our day-to-day life. So she said yes to just the first step. She said, okay, I found this school that has a great program, I'll sign up. That's all that we really knew. So she signed up, and her first class had to be math, and she had to be there 4 mornings a week at 8 o'clock, and she had to drive 40 miles one way. And just the whole picture, if she had taken her own human thought, do you understand, it would have stopped her. But she took a reading, as I'm going to talk to you about that more in a minute. She kind of looked at everything, and she was more interested in where she was going than what was between her and it. So she just said, okay. And one of the things was, how was she going to pay for this? So she took her summer classes. Ooh, I know this needs to move up, I think. She signed up for her summer classes, and apparently you could sign up for your classes and I guess pay for them when it got to the end. So that's what she had done. And then she couldn't register till fall, till she signed up for summer. She had gone in the direction of her intention, so she had done everything logistically to do, if you understand what I mean. She had taken all the, quote, human steps. She had done all the paperwork and all of that to get her funding. She'd heard zip from anybody about anything, you know. But she just kept going, you know. We just knew that this was the thing for her to do. So, you know, being in this teaching since before she was born, she knew that part of what she needed to do was put it out to the universe. And you know, nowadays how you do that? Facebook. So she put it on Facebook. That's the universe. Hey, that's the universe, right? So she put it out to Facebook, and she asked her friends, and actually then I put it on my page. And she didn't, you know, if you're on Facebook, you know that people do this sometimes, and it wasn't a ton of money. She just said if anybody has anything that they want to donate, because I think it's only $12 a unit. And she said on there, you know, I'm taking the math, I'm getting an A. So she was on her way for this. So she's thinking she put it out to the universe, and the universe is going to respond, because we all have that idea where I'll say, okay, so maybe this is the way. And underneath, we're sort of thinking that this is going to be it. No. So she goes back, and nobody had responded, not even any of my people, and except for things like, yay, it's about time. That's great, but, you know, okay. So then she kept going, and she needed to find out how much she actually owed so she could prepare for fall. So lo and behold, when she went on to check how much she actually owed, it turns out, unbeknownst to her absolutely and completely, that all of her fees had been waived. Every fee for that class had been waived. To this day, we actually still are not certain about what happened. She never got a letter. She never got an email. We never got anything. The universe just said, okay, you're good to go. You're going in the direction of your intention. You're taking the steps. You're paying attention. You're doing what's in front of you to do, even though it's a challenge for you. And that's what she was doing. And then about a week later, and here's the real interesting part, then about a week later, she got an email, and it said, by the way, you have money in an account. Did you want this for school? And it was in excess of $2,000 for her to pay for her books and to keep going in her schooling for fall. So that's been, she is a wonderful example that you put one foot in front of the other, that you do what is yours to do, and yet you simultaneously are aware that the universe is here to support you in an awesome way. So heaven for her is being with animals, because when you see her, that's what she loves. Heaven for all of us looks a little bit different, and all of you have had your own unique experience of being in a heavenly estate of divine consciousness. You know there is no heaven out there. There is no heaven we're going to get to when we pass on. If anything, we're going to have to take it with us, I'll tell you that. Because we're it. It's in us. And again, it's a stairway that's ever expanding. That's, I want to say, a spiritual evolutionary spiral. To me, it always looks like stairways, like steps of brilliant white light. And we have the choice to ascend on a continual basis. There are, for me, one of my own examples of that heavenly estate consciousness was when my husband and I went back to riding our bicycles together. I always like to be very active, and don't you know the way the universe works is I had some challenges with walking and with running. I hurt my foot, and I kept ignoring it. Don't you love it? I'm going to tell on myself. Oh yeah, I'm fine. Kept falling off my shoe, kept tripping, all this stuff. So finally I thought, oh, let's go to the doctor. That's an idea. And so sure enough, I had done several things, which meant nothing in that. It's going to take time to heal, is what we were saying. But when the doctor said to me, but you can bicycle, I lit up and went, oh. Because my husband and I met on a Sierra Club bike ride years ago. He continues to bike. He always kept my bike up to date. So it wasn't 2 days later then that we could get on our bikes. And the heavenly part for me, in a nutshell, was I forgot how much I loved to do this. I forgot that when I was 10, back in the day, we could bicycle anywhere. I would go off by myself all day, and it felt like flying to me. All of that came rushing back. I got to ride down the creek with the beautiful water and the shorebirds, and my husband knows shorebirds, and we'd look at that, and on the other side, when we get to the marina, we'd sail the merry sailboats, dancing in the wind. And it was beautiful. It was always sunny and bright, except for when we decided when we decided to ride when it was not so sunny and bright, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And then daisies are one of my favorite flowers. I'm just describing to you what it was for me. And I'm telling you, about 2 miles down that bike path on either side were huge bushes of the daisies, all in bloom. And all of this said to me, what were you waiting for to do this? Heaven was at hand this whole time. You could have been doing this all along. But in my mind, it just wasn't happening because of my schedule. So that was a wonderful demonstration that the universe brought forward. Keep in mind that when we're activating a heavenly estate of divine consciousness, we know that we're going to put our word out through speaking the word, through prayer treatment. We know that there's several steps we take along the way. But what the universe reads more solidly, almost, than your words, it really reads the fire of your energy. It's like it takes an energetic blueprint, it matches it directly, and says, okay, you get more of this. This is what you get more of. You know, I was doing barcodes recently, and I thought, this is interesting. This is like what the universe does. I put my little iPhone up, it reads this thing and says that's what it is. So the universe does that. So that you have to be all of us need to be very mindful about how do I actually feel inside of me. So that if I'm doing a prayer treatment for abundance, but in fact, while I do that prayer treatment, I feel a profound sense of lack, then I need to back up on that and do some deeper work to work with a sense of fear, a sense of doubt, a sense of worry, a sense of anxiety. You start your prayer work from a different place, so you meet yourself right where you are, simultaneously allowing yourself to know that that heavenly estate of consciousness is awaiting you. It's right there in the midst of that. It's waiting for you right there in the midst of that. Right? Say yes. Yes. Another wonderful demonstration I want to share is that just about 2 weeks ago, I think, I was, of course, in my office for a minute at the center. And we got a call about a young man who'd actually had a really pretty horrific, apparently, motorcycle accident. And I know his grandmother, so the text came to me. So we unified in a field of prayer. And he had actually been airlifted. And anytime there's an airlift, you know, they have an expectation. They want to get him to the hospital right away. So I also called the daughter, who I didn't know as well, but it was perfect because she was waiting to go into the emergency room. And so I did a prayer with her, and she went into the emergency room. And of course, what happened is that the doctors can't figure out why he got to go home that day. They actually didn't think he would actually make it. The bike was destroyed, and he went home with severe bruising, I guess, having an accident like that. But what his family repeated back to me was that they are clear that the unified field of prayer that was done in a particular way went back and actually changed the conditions so that he could walk out of that hospital that night. Do you see? So that may be more than your mind can take in at this moment. But that is where you lean into the energy of unconditional love, trust, and faith, and know that there is something calling your heart that wants you to express it. As I started out saying, you are sent on purpose from the infinite. You are here by right of consciousness, and that means it's not accidental that you are in this body, in this life. You are here to fulfill something, and that is our agreement together. So you're going to fulfill that by activating the steps that let the heavenly estate of divine consciousness come forward. The steps, as you may know, would be a meditation practice, a mindfulness practice, prayer treatment, tithing, seva, spiritual study, all of those things together. But it's really pretty much also keeping a pretty constant lookout on where am I actually in my consciousness, not comparing myself to where, comparison is so deadly, not comparing myself to where I think I should be in my consciousness. And in a lot of times in these wonderful communities, people compare themselves and they think that everybody's in joy all the time. And then they make themselves feel less than. And I must be doing something wrong. So instead of taking your spiritual reading that way, take your spiritual reading from yourself of knowing there's a divine idea in mind for you. And while I may, you say to yourself, and while I may have some fear or some doubt or some worry, something about that, the really good news is when you identify that, now you have something you can work with. And that's very exciting. Because if you don't know, if you're just mouthing words or paying lip service to truth, and not really doing the interior deep work, really not much can shift. I mean, you can have a demonstration, but the really deep demonstration that your heart and your soul wants, it's going to have a little bit more challenge to come forward until we stand in our own truth and let it fulfill itself, until we do our real interior work and meet ourselves where we are, work with a licensed practitioner, and allow the glory of God that is your soul's glory to unfold and fulfill what is yours to fulfill and unfold. So are you willing to do that? Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. And then after we have done our work to allow our own stairway to heaven to have its way, then our charge, and actually it's happening all along, it just at a certain time we kind of wake up to it. We become aware that in fact there's people coming after us. There's folks following us in consciousness. And it's so interesting because you may get to meet them, and you know what? You may never meet them. That's sometimes the way this works. So that if you're doing prayer for anybody that's in your field of awareness, like if you see something on the news and you do a prayer, you may not get to meet that person in person, but it doesn't matter. Because remember, every prayer we do is to shift our consciousness. Every prayer we do is for our own realization of wholeness, vitality, peace, and joy, creative self-expression. What happens, though, is, remember I said for me the stairway is invisible, right? It's made of light. I mean, it's very real. When I say it's invisible, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's actually more real than the chairs you're sitting on. But what it does mean is that it's built out of our own hearts. It's built from our soul's intention. That is how it's built. That's how we transverse this ever-expanding spiral. We become aware, sometimes not for many years, that there are others who are coming along, that they're depending on us. And they are depending on us. They are depending on us. And the one thing we know for sure right now is that going forward in this day and age we live in, that life will never be the same for any of us. It won't. Life is changing. Life is new. Life is renewing itself. We can be the place that other people stand on as we do our work and our practice to elevate and to illuminate life. We can be the place that others then lean into so that a greater realization of a world that works for everyone can fulfill itself by what we do when we do the small things. It all adds up so that when you buy coffee, be kind to people. When you're buying your dry cleaning, getting it back, buying your garments back, right? Be kind to people. That builds something that others come along on. And I've had that demonstration many times. The quote that I want to leave us with before the prayer is Howard Thurman from Disciplines of the Spirit. He's quoting from a work called The Hunter by Olive Schreiber. And this person, the hunter, it's a beautiful allegory. I could go on that, but I will restrain myself. But anyway, this hunter has been hunting for his whole life. He saw a bird reflected in a pond that he called the truth, what we could call our own innate nature of the infinite presence or God within us. So he caught a glimpse, and he goes through all this to try to see the bird as a whole. And he never quite gets to it in his lifetime. So that's what he's talking about when he says her. So we work for ourselves. Our spiritual work, we work for ourselves. And then we know that our work, it makes a difference on the planet. It makes a difference for every life we touch. It makes a difference for the animals. It makes a difference for Mother Earth. It makes a difference in the cosmos. What we do makes a difference. He says, I have sought. For long years I have labored, but I have not found her. I have not rested. I have not repined. I have not seen her. Now my strength is gone. Where I lie down, worn out, others will stand, young and fresh. By the steps I have cut, they will climb. By the stairs I have built, they will mount. They may never know the name of the one who made them, and at the clumsy work they may laugh, and when the stones roll from underneath it, they may curse me. But they will mount, and on my work they will climb, and by my stair they will know God. Come with me in prayer for just a moment. So Holy Spirit, perfect, radiant, dynamic life, the real good of the infinite, the ever-expanding nature of God that we may call the heavenly state of the infinite, at hand in the here, at hand in the now, at hand in the living, vitalizing real word that speaks, that knows, that beholds, that manifests, that demonstrates, that fulfills itself exceedingly well in all dimensions of thought and all dimensions of awareness. It is the living word that knows itself here and now as the life I am, the divine I am of each life within this sanctuary, each life within the sound of my voice. The I am, the heavenly estate. It is awake, it is aware, it is purposeful, it is intentional. It is bringing forth that emergent universe of the all good that God is, that awareness. There is no opposite in the mind and in the heart of God. So it is good to be established in this consciousness, to be convicted in this absolute knowingness, that where the two or more, where the higher consciousness agrees with the conscious mind, that unified field of truth within each being must demonstrate. This is what I know. So Holy Spirit, I bless each of us in this sacred awareness of perfect truth. I speak the word and know that anything that was brought into this field this day that may rest heavy on the heart, whether it is a financial challenge or a health challenge, perhaps it is about our relationship or our communication with another, perhaps it is about something that is happening seemingly in the world or just in our personal world or in the world at hand. It is good to be convicted in the awareness, again, that there is only one life and one power, and that where that seeming or apparent challenge is, the heart of the infinite, the heavenly estate of perfect being, has met it, that it is already, in a certain and particular way, making it go poof, to allow God's loving grace to come to the light of awareness, so that the abundant nature of love, the abundant nature of real life, the abundant nature of perfect health, the abundant nature of divine energy, the abundant nature of beauty, the abundant nature of the creation of the universe, it pours out and pours out and pours out. Such a rich, radiant, dynamic blessing for every life, every life, every life. It is good to bear witness to the activity of this compelling, dynamic, real, vitalizing, heartfelt, divinely centered truth of God being God, of God always being God. So I'm in such gratitude that this is what is happening. I'm grateful to bless this beautiful center, the spiritual center of truth that is Reading. I speak the word and I know it has everything it needs in a very compelling way to fulfill the dynamic vision for this center to be all that it is in the mind and the heart of God. This is what I am established, this is what I know, and this is what I'm grateful for all of us this day. And in gratitude, releasing the word to the activity of the perfect law of faithfulness, I'm convinced it is done. And together in alignment we say, and so it is. And so I let it be. Amen.